Maybe.
La 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 la. No, I'm joking.
Warm up.
Could you imagine?
Mimo.
What's up, everybody? Hey, thanks for tuning into the as of yet unnamed Anderson podcast test ground alpha trademark patent pending. I don't know. Future Anderson will put those words up if it's funny, and if not, then don't worry about it. I am joined today by, of course, world famous YouTuber Casey, also known as Road2Racer. Casey, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a good morning. What is it? 10 a.m. here in the Americas.
All of the Americas.
All of the Americas.
Not.
Yes. Yeah.
It's good. This podcast is for everybody. But primarily, I think we're probably going to be talking a lot about sim racing stuff today. We do have like a lot of video game stuff on tap. I think generally speaking, if the podcast carries forward, it will be more of like a broad video game focus. But obviously some big news in our hobby this week with AC Evo. We've been playing a lot of BeamNG. But first, before we get into any of that, normally what I would do in the beginning of most of my podcasts would be to ask my guests to establish their nerd credibility, right? I want to make sure that everybody that appears on the show reaches a certain level, right? Can have a certain, you must be this nerdy to ride the ride, if that makes any sense. I find myself in a unique position with you though, Casey, because of course I'm super familiar with your channel, big fan. So I hope you wouldn't mind. I'm just going to say that's your nerd credibility, right? How many YouTube subscribers do you have?
Just tipped over 9,000.
Over 9,000. Wow.
As Vegeta would say.
Vegeta meme. I think we have to insert.
Yeah.
So that's wild. And when did you start?
Started, I believe the first video was uploaded end of November. So I think like November 28th or something. The Fanatec CSL DD video.
That's a pretty impressive growth. I have a YouTube channel, not the one that this is hosted on, but a different one that's been around for 15, 16 years. I think I have maybe 60 subscribers. Very
nice. So actually the Road2Racer channel before this was actually called Three-Legged Films.
Why Three-Legged Films?
Well, it had a picture. It was just, I was looking at my cat and he's got 3 legs when I made it. But before that, I don't know what it's called, but the channel has actually been around for, if you look at it, it'll say YouTube member for 13 years or something. Cause it was like my middle school account. And then it just became different things until this happened. I uploaded a racing video. And after that first video, I saw the Fanatec CSLDD video got, I think 60 subscribers in a couple days. And I was like, oh my gosh, this might be something. And I was like, well, it's time to rebrand Three-Legged Films here. And so then I did the whole Road2Racer thing. And I actually had videos on this channel. They're buried that select few have seen. I've showed to people, but they were like just dark humor comedy skits, but they are buried actually in my unlisted. So there is stuff buried beneath Road2Racer.
Maybe subscriber perks. Let's talk about I want to talk about that first video that you made, because that was actually how I discovered your channel. Was you had the Fanatec CSL DD, your first experience when you got that wheel. How did you get into sim racing?
So sim racing for me was never really anything I thought about. My wife actually, she's in the military, and they get these like Amazon overstock trucks that come in and they kind of pick through, and she brought home a Logitech shifter, whatever that thing's called. Just the $60 shifter. And it sat in my closet for a year. And during that whole time, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a wheel for this at some point, because that would be really sweet. I just saw the shifter and I was like, this thing's cool. And I've always liked games like Forza, more like Forza Horizon and stuff. I had dipped my toes back in like Forza 7 when it was out on Xbox, I guess 1 or whatever. Not the Series X, the Xbox
6, I think 7 is the new one, right?
8 is the new one. It's just called Forza Motorsport. Okay, so
7, that was the first one.
Right.
The newest one is the first one I ever dived into.
Right. So whatever one was on Xbox One, I had played a lot of that one. That was the first actual you can't just slide around these corners kind of thing. That was the first game like that I ever played.
Just taking out the entire guardrail with you.
Right. And so I just kind of always had a little bit of an interest for those games. If I could get a hold of one, I would definitely put like 20 hours into it and then probably call it good. But I was excited to get a wheel, and finally I made the decision. It was coming up on Black Friday, and I told my wife, I was like, hey, if I go, I've been looking at this thing online, and we were going to get a Logitech to match the shifter. But then after watching reviews, I was just like, oh, a couple $100 more, and I don't have grinding. So I use that as like a selling point for my wife. I was like, hey, if I get this Logitech one, it's going to be really loud in the living room, which it will be. It will be loud.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And so I was kind of like, it's only 200 off. If we go half and half on this thing for like a Christmas present, can we get this DD wheel? And so that's where I got the Fanatec. And the video just came from I'm a decently creative individual with like video because that's my day job, is editing and capturing and stuff. So while I was waiting on Fanatec's ridiculously slow delivery process, I was like, maybe I'll make a video just me waiting, and I'll document my whole experience with unboxing this thing and using it for the first time. Because what I found while I was waiting for this wheel was there was no videos of a brand new person to sim racing like getting a DD wheel. I wasn't seeing that. I was seeing people upgrading, and I was seeing all the videos about this is the difference between this and this, the experience difference. And I was like, man, I want to see somebody like me who's never raced before grab this wheel and go. And like, because that's just, I didn't see it anywhere on YouTube. But so that's why the video came about. And it just happened to hit the sweet spot right at the right time, Black Friday. It's really funny that you mentioned actually the two things that you mentioned here that are what drew me to your channel. You actually kind of nailed, right? Is one is you were sort of doing something that I didn't see anybody else doing. So you see all of these review videos, or hey, what wheel should I buy, or comparison things. There's obviously tons of that stuff on YouTube, and a lot of great content and creators around it. But as you say, I hadn't seen a lot of like, hey, I'm brand new to this, and also I'm sort of starting at this level. And for me, I had gone from a Logitech wheel up to CSLDD. So I was interested in sort of, what's it like when someone starts there, and that was really interesting. Right. But the other thing that drew me to it, aside from the fact that it was like our hobby and is like just a good topic, a good take on it that I hadn't seen, was the quality of the videos was really high. Like visually, they just looked really, really nice. Like there was a real nice warm look to them. And then of course, come to find out that, you have quite a bit of professional videography experience that explained a lot. But really, really high quality stuff. And it was kind of grabbed me immediately as having a distinctly different and in a lot of times better, look than other channels. Right. It was very common in that first week or two that I was getting a lot of comments on that video. People saying like, expected this to be a 300K channel. What the hell is this? Because I had like 20 subscribers when a lot of people were commenting that stuff. So that was all a big part of the drive. But you know what the worst part about like that video, that being the grab for the channel, is you can really only do it once. Like it's not like that can be my shtick, like, I'm the guy who races sim racing for the first time every video. So it's very much since then been like this, where does my channel lie, or what do I want to do? And I think I've just landed on in general sim racing. I've tried to just be like, yes, there's this big niche of sim racing, but I don't think I want to pick a small niche because my brain can't lie there. I just can't be in that little box. So I think since that first video, it's just kind of turned into, like I always get in this thing where I don't want to lock myself into a place. Like I see channels locked into this thing. Like they can only do this one thing. I don't want to be that. So when it comes to like having a niche, then like, do you think that you've had like, is it an eras type situation or? Yes. Yeah. I'm very much very much the T Swift of sim racing. You're the T Swift of sim racing. That's definitely it. That's new tagline. And my legs look just as good. My legs look just as good. But no, yeah. I forgot what the question was. What's the question? I mean, after I saw those sexy legs, I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to continue. No, the question was eras. We were talking about eras. Yeah. So I think everybody who's watched the channel or who's in Discord and who follows along and does community races with us knows that I had my Assetto Corsa Competizione era, and I feel like it's dead. I believe you have to. I believe you are required to do the hand gesture when you say it. And you know how long it took me to learn to say this? You know how long it took me to say that? Like I would like competence. I would like be in videos, and I would just like use those takes because like they were better than me actually pronouncing it right. But no, I think that I do think that happens a lot. It's like I started in ACC and I did a lot of it. I mean, you're talking like what, 5 or 6 months of ACC. Quite a bit. And it's really where I did a series called Learning the Ropes, where I raced every single track a different day. Shout out to Mike Vowles. He was the guy who got me to that, got me all set up on that stuff. And then after that, like I started, then we had Wilson in my ear all the time, Sincere Wilson over there in chat. And he's like, Automobilista 2, man. It's Automobilista 2. And so he's always telling me, and I was, that's a solid Wilson, by the way. That's a solid Wilson. and I loaded it up, the beta, like they let you drive like minivans. It was like junk. The beta was, or the demo was not good for AMS2. And I was just like, yeah, I don't think this is it. But then I started dipping my toes into Assetto Corsa, and I was like, oh man, I really love driving all these cars that just aren't GT3s or, touring cars or whatever. And so then the Automobilista era, and I'm still in this big era of AC, Automobilista, and just this wide range of other things. I still load up Race Room at least once a week, and I just get in the DTMs because I think they feel fantastic, and I slam gears in the DTMs, and yeah. So yeah, definitely like an era situation. But it's funny that I'm gonna participate in Jeff is another YouTuber, Jeff TSC. He runs Cup Series. He's about to do one called Double Trouble, and it's back on ACC. So I am going to load up ACC again, but I don't think I'll hang out there or really content create in there very much.
Do you think that, do you think that the game hopping the eras and whatnot, like, is that helpful or hurtful to you? Do you think as a channel?
I think it can be hurtful. I think that so say if you have an audience of 10,000 subscribers and you are one niche, like you are the ACC guy, you know where your audience lies. It's very dedicated. Like, you know that if you go live stream, all those people are there because of ACC, and they're likely to tune in, or they're likely to be more interested in the content you create. I do feel that I have a lot of subscribers from me taking photos of cars. I have a lot of subscribers from me learning how to drive an ACC and trying to be competitive. I have a lot of subscribers from skits that will have no interest in watching me drive at all. So I think it's damaging in a way, but for like my mental health and mental capacity, it is just like by far the best way. And I think that every day though, the channel gets a little bit more clear on what it is. Like, you know, like every month I feel like it's becoming a little bit more clear. And I'm starting to get to the point now where I think it's like creative comedy slash, high quality comedy slash racing bits, but my racing stuff I post now isn't even just like overtakes and things like that. It's like experiences with like people like you and Wilson and Calevera and all these guys from Discord on the mic. Like, I like that comedy aspect, and that's kind of what I'm influenced by too. Channels that I watch, I think that's kind of where the channel's headed, is less serious racing and less trying to be competitive, and more just a guy having a good time in his ridiculously awesome sim rig.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the skits, because, you know, that was another thing that was really distinct about your stuff from the beginning, right? Is even in the first videos, you had these little cutaways and, you know, some kind of just good gags. And that's a thing that persisted the whole time. But the other side of it, really, for me, that's been compelling is, of course, the community that you built around the channel. And, you know, as you said, you know, we often get together with, you know, games of Automobilista, or, you know, we've been playing BMNG lately, or, you know, you did the Fantasy Porsche Cup. So I think the community races are really a pretty awesome thing. You know, a lot of YouTubers have their community and they have this kind of stuff, but wonder if you wanted to talk a little bit about the Fantasy Porsche Cup and how that experience was for your community.
Yeah, this right here, this was my baby for about 2 or 3 months. This was the Fantasy Porsche Cup. And every time I run one of these series, the artwork is so important to me on the channel, like unbelievably important. Like it's honestly like 50% of it for me is just the artwork. Like the Porsche Cup was fun to drive in, and that was the whole point. We have a bunch of people on a track that aren't afraid to get out, and we even had new sim racers on the track for the Fantasy Porsche Cup. We're like, just don't be afraid to come. We're not very serious. We're in a different Porsche every week. It's not like anybody's going to be so fine-tuned that we're expecting perfection. So that's kind of the whole point of it, and that's what I want my series to be going forward. I want there to be competitive, a place where you can get competitive, but you can also get in a wreck and be like, that wasn't really a big deal. Let's have a good time. And my favorite part of the Porsche Cup was that while I was streaming by my lonesome and doing my stream stuff, there was a whole Discord full of 16 to 17 people every week that were all in there just shouting over each other. I would like look at Discord and I was like, that is so awesome. And I wanted to be in those chats so bad sometimes.
Yeah. But, as someone who was in those chats, you were definitely missing out. Like I know that you were the one that put them together and you were doing the stream and all that, but we were the ones that were having a good time for sure. Right.
And the Porsche Cups were so much fun, especially and also, this is something else good. The Porsche Cups, I just made it a goal that every week I was going to try to make a short story out of that week's race. I would go through the replays, or I'd find a moment that was crazy, and I was like, I'm going to do a short story. And I think that's cool for the people participating too, because it's like, it's not only like, oh, we had a race and it's over and we have a guy who got first, but it's like, oh, what's going to be posted this week from the race? It's some kind of crazy narrative.
Well, there was a crazy thing that came out of each of them, but then on top of that, so one of the things you did was created some pint glasses for some of the winners, and I was fortunate enough for some of my other contributions to have been awarded a cup, because I was certainly not going to be winning one on the track. But just the act of making those cups and putting the races together, inspired me to do a fantasy Porsche Cup ad, which obviously the folks that were participating in the race series really loved. But it's just one of the things that I think is really cool and compelling about what you're doing is that it inspires other people, and a lot of us come into the track trying some new stuff, but a lot of us also just kind of taking some of the experiences that we have with the community and saying, oh, I'd like to build something more off of that, and I just think that's really cool. So hats off to you.
Yeah, no, and the same with you. Hats off to you, because if you didn't know, Bad Rock here, he ran the server for the Porsche Cup. He helped people whenever they couldn't get into it, because the Assetto Corsa can be tough when you're first learning it. Everybody always has issues until they figure it out, and just stuff like that. The Porsche Cup also, I opened my stream, so it was the last week of the Porsche Cup, and I opened my stream. He tells me, hey, I'm making a commercial for the Porsche Cup or something. Tell me making a video.
I said I've got something good going, and you came back. I'm actually happy to tell this story because I don't know how many people in the community know. Well, I mean, back and forth, but
tell it while I go grab the Porsche Cup. Tell it.
What had happened was I was looking at the fantasy Porsche Cup, and I just kept on laughing at the cup part, and I said, okay, I want to make a fake ad for this, and I reached out to Casey and just said, hey, I'm going to make a fake ad for this cup. And he just replied, he's like sight unseen. He goes, could I open a stream with it? And meaning, I think, like, will it be appropriate to open the stream with? I don't think it was like a, do you mind? I think it was more like, is the content okay? And so I said, yeah, of course, if you want. So this guy, without having reviewed the content, just opened the stream with the commercial. And I will flatter myself to say I thought it was well received.
It was so funny because it was like 2 minutes till stream. I was actually already live. It was just my splash screen, my intro screen. And I was like, I'm just going to open with it. And I just stuck it in OBS. It started to play. I resized it. I paused it so I didn't see it. And I was like, this will probably be like a blind react. And we played it. And whenever the screen went away, I was laughing so hard that I had to replay it again just so I could have time to get my composure. And then it was still so funny that I was just like, and partially it's so funny. The whole thing is so funny for me because it's like somebody in my community made something like to do with, it's so cool. Like after week one, it was Mr. Bean went in and took photos from the race, and we made posters out of them for race one. Stuff like that's so cool to me because that's the stuff that speaks to me, is like the creative element of all this. But this is the Fantasy Porsche Cup. So we gave away 3 of these as participation prizes. That you didn't even have to race good for these. Like you didn't have to, you just had to be there. The more races that you attended, the more raffles you had to win one of these. And I even customized it and put people's names on them. And then for our first, second, and third place winners, they actually got custom artwork. They told me their favorite car and track combo, and I went in and took an actual picture of their car on that track from that day, from the actual replay, like a heated moment in their race or something. And we made them posters like this and sent them to their doorstep. So just the fact that the channel's come to a point where I can do things like that is that's what makes all this like worth it for me, like, and the subscriber thing, obviously I'm a YouTuber and I get wrapped up in that junk a lot, like the number crunching game, but don't get it twisted. I did this is the stuff I really love. This is crazy.
So let me ask you one for your subscribers, because I mean, let's be honest. If anyone is actually listening to this podcast, it's probably subscribers
Discord
of your
boys.
channel.
Discord boys.
your subscribers, not my subscribers. But so my last question. I know that everyone is there's been a great hue and a cry for when is the next Fantasy Porsche Cup style? When is the next Cup race going to happen? And so I got to put you on the spot and ask you, what's the plan?
So we were waiting on Evo. We were waiting on the announcement of Evo because I didn't want to run a Cup series when Evo was dropping. Just in case it was good enough to run a Cup series on, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to re-gear quickly. But now that Evo's not happening till January 16th, I think.
A lot of time, yeah.
Right, I think it's time. And I would like to say that, so it's September right now. I already have the artwork for this. I've sent it to you. It is I believe it's called the Ferrari Classic Cup. And I already have, I'll put it on screen if I share anything from this. But I already have the artwork for that. But I'm going a little bit deeper this time. And I'm actually studying historic Ferrari, because I don't know a lot about, I'm still new to the racing world. I've only been here for a year. So like, I'm actually studying like Ferrari classic races, like historic races of Ferrari. If you haven't been on Ferrari's site, dude, they have a crazy like historic page with timelines and all these things that you can click on. So I'm kind of looking for car and track combos that were very historical and Ferrari, and that's what we're going to do. So every week we're going to be like, hey, we're in these oldest Ferrari whatever the earliest F1s they have from the 60s on the actual Spa track that they were raced on, like a famous win. And then the next weekend we're going to work our way up to the point where a lot of people say Ferrari started to suck, I guess. A lot of that. I don't know what year that is, but I hear that a lot. People are like, Ferrari used to be good.
So you're not going to take the same strategy as last time and just chuck a darts. Here's a car, here's a track, put them together, hope for the best, and then turn out to just be like 10 for 10. Everything is perfect. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how that worked out for you, man. I don't know how you pulled that off.
I have a weird philosophy about that. People say that all the time. Every time we pick cars and tracks, people are like, this is a great combo. And I'm like, I think it's a great combo because you've just never done it before. I think that almost any car and track that I've done, I'm just like, oh, I could get down with this after a few laps. So I think people think that it's like this big thing that, oh, what a great combination you put together. But I think it's just like something nobody has done. Like they just hadn't done that exact combo. And I think if you enjoy racing, you're just like, oh, I can get down with this. The car's good. And, and you'll find the joy in the tracks. But the fantasy tracks were cool. The problem with, I want to do fantasy tracks for the Ferrari Cup as well. I still think it'd be cool to sprinkle this in. But man, we've used the 4 most high quality tracks to offer on Assetto Corsa. There's not many more that look like those tracks that we use in the Porsche Cup. So I don't really
looking pretty rough too as you go further and further away.
Right. So I'm kind of like, and I might start digging through some Patreons and see what kind of tracks I can. But the problem is, if they're paid mods on the server is just that's a gray area yes, we could do it, but like that doesn't do justice for the creator, and I'm not about that. So.
Well, I mean, or you could request everyone to buy it, but then it's like, are we excluding people in the community? And you excluding people in the community, that kind of thing. But I will say that whatever it is, I know that everybody is super looking forward to it. And if it's anything like the last one, it's going to be amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I think now that I know the Evo date, it's time to sink some time into preparation. So.
Well, speaking of Evo, I know we are going to review the trailer here in a few, but I did want to quickly ask you, in the spirit of this probably being a more general video gaming podcast, you've been playing anything else lately? Any games you've got going on that you like?
Yeah, so typically my evenings after 9 p.m., once my family goes to bed, it is video game time with the neighborhood boys from hometown, and typically they're shooter guys, but we've been playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint. It's an older game that didn't get very good reviews, but Ubisoft
has those Ubisoft deals, right?
Yeah. So Ubisoft has this knack for making beautiful open worlds that still end up feeling a bit lackluster.
You mean you don't like climbing the towers over and over again to unlock more of the map?
Right. But the like graphic and art appreciation in me just like can't get enough of their games though. Just because, even though I never stay hooked and I never finish them, it's just something about like those big vistas and like the work they put into them. We're going around Ghost Recon the other day and I'm like, I'm starting to get a little bored. And then we went out to this island out in the middle of the ocean, and it had like this big volcano with these big fractures in the land. And I was like, man, I'm back in. But no, other than that, those Space Marines as well, until they messed it up with their last update.
Is that the new one?
Yeah, the Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Actually, so real quick on the Breakpoint thing, I wanted to ask. I want to circle back to Call of Duty, but you guys say you're shooter guys, so I want to ask how you're looking forward to Call of Duty. But
I think more tactical shooters than.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not much. Those guys don't do a lot of. I like COD, but I never stick with it. It's I don't like being angry at games. That's like my biggest philosophy.
Wait, so hang on, but you're playing Breakpoint. What about that X-Defiant game? I thought that was another Ubisoft tactical shooter thing that came out like more recently.
We played it for a week and we just got bored.
Oh, that's weak.
Yeah. And also a lot of it is competitive shooters. I used to be into them when I was younger, and it also brought like a lot of rage and anger, playing games. Like I just don't like feeling that. So I typically try to separate myself from that. So that's kind of why it's like career mode, PvE kind of stuff. I still love Halo is my favorite game on earth, by the way. No matter how shitty people think the games are, I love Halo. It's every game I love. So I still visit PvP on Halo quite often, but it's not something I get mad at anymore.
I love the best thing they ever did in Call of Duty was doing the open mic thing when you get murdered, so you can hear the person cursing when you kill them.
Right.
My favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, more games need to utilize open mic. I know that it became like this thing that companies got away from because of like just the way things are now.
Because of like the internet at large and how it works.
Right, exactly. But like, do you remember? Oh God! But sometimes I'm like, there's a reason they shut it off. If you've ever been in PUBG open lobbies before they shut that off.
Yeah.
So there's a reason they shut it off. But it is something I do like. This one thing I like about iRacing, your name is tied to it. So like people still talk crap on there, but like you're at the expense of putting your name on a racial slur. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I can say I've never heard anyone use a racial slur in iRacing. I'm, kind of surprised. I will admit, kind of surprised, but like, definitely, your real name is definitely right there. So,
right. And if someone ever drops one and I make content out of it, their name will be on the video.
Oh yeah,
100%. I will not blur
name and shame all the way.
Exactly.
So coming to Space Marine 2 then. So I played the first one. I never beat it, but great, really competent shooter. I love 40K. So I mean, the game looks amazing. I'm just kind of waiting for a deal because there's kind of a lot out right now. It's a little
expensive, yeah.
But so you say the last patch broke it. Aside from that, like, how has it been?
It's fantastic. I love it. So if you watch reviewers talk about the game, they talk about like how it brings back a little bit of masculinity into gaming, and what what I'm saying about that. It's funny because that's all woke shit and I don't really care about it. But the big thing about it feels like an Xbox 360 game. That's the best way I can describe it.
It looks like Gears of War. So I mean,
yeah. So you open it up, it gives you this Gears of War thing, and like it's just like these big Space Marine men just cutting shit in half.
So we're talking about bringing masculinity back. What we mean is it's bringing back like chainsaw assault rifles.
Right. Exactly. That's why I said I don't give a crap about the woke stuff. But like it's just like. There's no watered down BS. There's not all these menus and like all these microtransactions. It's just like you get into the game and it's like you're just cutting things up. It's got great controls and like everything about it just feels badass. Every time you cut something for the 100th time and you're just like, yeah. And
it sounds like it reminded me of when they did the first Doom remake and I was playing it and I was loving it, but it was like, man, this is a game that knows exactly what it is. Like it just every time you're ripping something off or whatever. Yeah. Yep. Or like Gears or any of that stuff where you're just like, this knows what it's doing and it's doing it really well. And it's not trying to like reinvent the whole everything genre. Right. It's just like, yeah, I just want to like shoot 100,000 of a thing. Right. And
so far, I know nothing about 40K. I know nothing about that universe, but so far it's very interesting. It's a very dark and, like 40K is like it's
in the grim dark future. There's only war.
Heads floating around with spider legs and stuff. Like it's wild. But it's really good. If anybody's looking for like a PvE style wave linear game, that's the one. It's so good.
I'll definitely be picking that up at some point. I've been playing one game I played lately was called What the Car. So from the makers of this game called
saw that.
Yeah, I'm actually probably making a video on it in the next couple of days. But it's from the makers of a game called What the Golf, and essentially What the Golf was a game where it seemed like it was going to be a golfing game, but instead it was just bonkers. Had sort of if you ever played Katamari Damacy on a PlayStation, it was like a game where you were a ball and you had to roll up all these things.
They just put that out on PC Game Pass, by the way.
Yeah, right. I actually am kind of psyched to go back and play it. It's kind of got that spirit where you're like, what is this game? Like, it's just a little bonkers and it's fun. So What the Car is like What the Golf in that it sort of looks like it's going to be a racing game, but then it's not. And it is, but it's just very weird. I don't want to step on the video stuff, but I think it's worth checking out for $15.
I saw Traction. Yeah, I saw Traction GG playing it, and he and it's like the car like split and it grew arms and stuff.
That's what it is. So like one of the first levels is like at the beginning of a level, you're a car and you get fired out of a cannon, and you can see in that moment sort of what the conceit of the level is going to be, and it tells you like what it is, and it kind of sings it to you in like a jingle, right? So
oh wow.
One of the first ones, fire the cannon out and it's like a car, but it just has legs at the bottom, and it's like car with legs, and you just are a car and you run through the track, and you do the whole thing. And I was like, oh, okay, great. And then the next one you fire it out and it comes out, but it's got like 7 legs, and it's like car with too many legs. And like, you're just trying to keep the car straight, like running because it's got like too many legs and it's doing too much at the same time. And it kind of goes off the rails pretty quickly. I think one of them was car with wheels, but giraffes.
Oh,
so yeah. It goes basically like that. It's pretty nuts.
Is it co-op?
Nope, just the one player, but there are player-made levels that I haven't investigated too hard, and it seems like that's going to be ripe for shenanigans.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
And then also been playing a little bit of Black Myth Wukong, which is, I've been calling it Chill Souls, kind of Dark Souls-y.
It looks really good, too.
Yeah, the graphics are really nice. It's based on a Chinese like Journey to the West thing with I don't I'm not super read in on the myth anymore, but they made a sort of okay movie with Jackie Chan and Jet Li in it.
Okay.
Whatever. You're like a monkey guy with a staff. You beat up things. They're demons. It's very Chinese. I don't mean that like in necessarily a bad way. I just mean culturally. Like if you've watched like Chinese subtitled kung fu movies, which I think probably there's a fair bit of overlap in nerds with that kind of thing. Then you probably know where you'll see some stuff and you'll be like, oh, this doesn't make a ton of sense to me as a person because it's very culturally Chinese and it's clearly significant for somebody who understands why it's significant, but that person's not me. There's a lot of that in the game, but the game itself is a lot of fun and the graphics are wonderful, like really, really nice graphics. So,
for sure.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it. And then of course, lots of race car stuff, which we're going to get into here, I think is probably the thrust of the rest of the podcast, right?
So before we jump into BeamNG, I do have to point out you're wearing your BMW attire.
I am.
Sorry, not BeamNG. Before we jump into Evo, you're wearing your BMW attire. Look what I
was
wore.
Appropriate. What do you got? You've got your
do you know what this is? Do you know what this is?
I don't. I feel like I should.
This is a children's book, and I wore this because my family bought this for me because this is the book that I would read my child when she was a kid, or she's still a kid, but when I'd read it to her, and this is the only book that I can't actually read without like almost crying laughing. It's the stupidest thing ever, but they found this shirt that says, "We must stop eating," cried Toad, as he ate another. It's just these two, like, it just reminds me like these two old men that live together. And like they just do this. I don't know if you had seen it or not. I figured you had seen it, but I guess not. The really old books. As a getter of
pop culture references, I'm surprised that I don't know what it is.
Really old books, but it's the whole thing is like that. Like in like one episode, Frog sees Toad planting a garden and is like, I want to plant a garden. So he takes seeds home and he plants them, but he's like screaming at the seeds to grow. And like, he's like, you have to be gentle with them. So like, he's like doing all these things to soothe them then, you know, and just finally falls asleep and he wakes up 3 days later and they're grown and he thinks it's all because of his efforts. So it's just like one of these weird, I don't know.
Do you ever become concerned that maybe we picked the wrong career paths? Like when you hear stuff like that and you think about how much money that person may have made, or you ever like, you know, I may have made a mistake in life. I may have chosen a different path. Yeah.
The Frog and Toad. If you haven't, as an adult, I recommend go pick you up a Frog and Toad book. Have a good laugh.
Frog and Toad, potential name for the podcast? Who knows?
Frog and Toad, yeah. Yeah, I have voices I read them in too. They're not good. Kermit.
I think we all have like the not good voices that we reserve for our kids' stories, but I think that I will keep them reserved for the kids' stories. Not torture myself here. So I know we're going to talk BeamNG a little bit because I know that's what we've been playing a little bit of lately. But before we get into that, I did want to talk about one of the big pieces of news of the week, of course, for Sim Racers was the AC Evo trailer. And what I thought we might do is go through the trailer frame by frame, not frame by frame, but, pausing it as we feel like shouting it out. But rather than doing the, myriad of other content that's already been out there as folks pick apart, here's what we see, here's what we think. Why don't we talk about our thoughts on the trailer, probably coupled with thoughts on our thoughts on other people's thoughts on the trailer, if that makes any sense. I don't think we need to pull up any of their videos, but I think we've all, most people that are going to be listening to this or watching this have probably read the opinions, read the thoughts and so forth. So let's just give our takes on the sort of surrounding stuff. Sound good?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So then let me just go ahead and get the...
As a YouTube content creator, I have colorful opinions on this.
Yeah. As just a person with opinions, I've got opinions. All right. So I'm going to back this up and full screen it. Here we go. Just shout out for the pauses and I will happily pause it.
Are you sharing it on Discord?
No, I'm not, but hang on, I'm gonna, because you're smarter at YouTubing than I am. Oh, look at this guy. Does this get edited out? Does it stay in? Who knows?
What about your age? I like, we're not there yet, but anyway, car passion. The way he says car passion kills.
I have thoughts. Okay, here we go. I'm all set here. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, without any further ado, without any, clearly no edits have happened in between before and right now. This has just all been absolutely seamless.
This is not about your age.
Okay. First thought. these graphics are pretty sweet, right? I mean,
it's look at it. Oh, it's so pretty, dude.
Yeah,
and I didn't
really
see
nice
it when I watched it, but like I didn't see it when I watched it because I was just looking at the car. But the trees, dude.
Yeah,
trees look good, man.
you start to pick some of that stuff out, and it's like, wow, okay, all right, this looks nice.
Yeah.
This is not about your car. It isn't about your experience.
Oh, I should
Pause
point
real
out.
quick. Pause. Did you watch Jimmy Broadbent's?
Yes,
Dude, he's the king of this, man. This guy's like, he's like, I've been on that corner.
Yeah,
you know,
he absolutely pulled up this spot. He's like, oh, over on the other side of this building on Google Maps is like, this is where we parked here. This is where this thing is. He's
dude,
like,
he's a nut, man.
Yeah.
He's a nut. Oh, yeah, he's crazy. He's the best at this.
He also pointed out in his video that BMW M4 stuff. So obviously some partnership stuff, as you pointed out. By the way, shout out to BMW sponsoring this podcast in the future. I'm sure it'll happen. And then also point out the Bilstein stuff, which is partner Jimmy Broadbent and Misha and Steve Super GT there.
Suspension.
Crikey, mate. Crikey. Okay, so.
It isn't about your experience.
Okay. It also isn't about the features of this game, just so that we're clear. Okay. It's not about cars that you're going to get to drive. It's not about things that we know about it. It's not about price point or early access features. What's it about, though?
Pretty.
It isn't about performance or power.
Cool. Not about the horsepower you'll need in your computer.
How you portray your love for driving. Because car passion is a state of mind.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it, man.
Can we talk about car passion for a minute? Is that a phrase that you are familiar with, Case?
No, but with his accent, it does not play well.
Car passion. It sounds like one word when he says it, but even if it was two
passion.
words, yeah, I'm not sure. Is it like percussion? But all right. So car passion is not a thing that I've heard, but as a human that speaks English,
passionate for cars.
Right. Sure. I can get the concept. And I don't think that that's a language barrier thing. I just think that they're like sort of have chosen poorly, I guess. It
also gives me this a little, when I hear car passion as a state of mind, I get a tad bit of a little bit of cringe, because when I used to work at as a gas station attendant for 10 years. And I would always hear people come in filling up Jeeps. And there was this one guy, dude. He was the Jeep guy, man. And he would talk about, like, people would come in and he would say it all the time. He'd be like, man, he's like, I didn't choose me, man. Or I didn't choose it. It chose me. It's just a lifestyle, bro. And he would say it. So when I hear that, like the car passion is a lifestyle, all I can think about has to do with the Jeep and how cringe I just did not like that guy.
The thing about that phrasing is, like, people say it about pets. Like, that makes at least a certain amount of sense, right? Sometimes like, an animal wanders up and you're like, I have to adopt this thing. Like, you can sort of understand why someone would say that. Your car chose you. It's an inanimate object. I mean, I get the idea that, look, I've owned cars that speak to me, and certainly you see cars that speak to me, but I don't think I've ever had a car where I'm like, I'm going to go into this gas station and I'm going to tell this guy about how much I like this brand of thing.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle. It's the Jeep thing. You wouldn't understand.
That's what he would say, dude. It drove me nuts. He talked about it every day he came in. He had a Jeep with it had like the angry headlights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the real angry ones.
Because it feels emotions.
Right. But he had the green highlights all over it and stuff. And he had like the teeth in the grill. And I was just like, oh my God.
Just so that we're perfectly clear, I do give the little peace sign to every single WRX driver that I drive past, because that's different somehow. Like, it's totally different for me to be able to do that. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Me and my Pontiac vibe bros out here on the street,
So that is not lame. I'm just going to say, when I do it, it's not lame. Okay, so that we're clear.
Yeah. All so car passion is definitely a thing.
It is. All right. So yeah. All right. Let's one last question about car passion. How would you say what is your greatest expression of car passion?
Dude, I don't know anything about cars. Let's see.
I just figured you were going to reach out and start jiggling your reds. Like, I think we have car passion like going on.
This is it. I don't even know anything about these cars. I'm going to be honest. Sim racing for me, a lot of it is I just like the way it looks and it's fun. That's really all it is. Like, I like the way these cars look.
I'm going to say your car passion is the cinematic that's been looped on this screen the entire time.
That is it. So, I am most proud, wherever that I'm going to point to it somewhere. That is like one of my most proud things on the channel is that cinematic that's playing back there. I love that thing.
What's funny because I point to it because this trailer you called out while we were watching it, and other people were calling out in your live chat that like, oh, this looks a lot like it looks like the one you put together for the Nordschleife when they put it out for ACC, and kind of it does.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, yeah, that whole thing was wild. If you remember, were you part of that day when we were driving it?
I think I was watching. I don't think I was driving.
So it came out, and we decided we were gonna get all the guys on stream to get on track with us. We're gonna open the server in 4 different weather formats, variations. We're gonna do a lap in 4 different variations and just try to stay close. Not necessarily clean, just try to stay close. And then once we were done with stream, it was 4 hours after stream I posted this video.
It was good work.
Yeah, and I love this video. Yeah, it's fantastic. But anyway, back to
so
Evo.
Yeah, going back for a little bit on the car passion thing. Something else that I wanted to point out was that they had said, not they, the internet folks had mentioned, look at this guy reaching out and grabbing his gloves, right? And that all of the hand models in AC, are gloved.
It's driven by heart.
But I guess you see later on, you see the guy driving with
my
their
stream's
gloves.
my stream's not playing on my end. Hold on. It wasn't. Some reason it kicked me out of your stream. Okay, back it up to the.
All right, too, because I was going to go back to the cars too, since I was talking. But shows the guy grab gloves, and then I guess later on we see the model driving without gloves on, and someone made about all of the hands in AC have gloves on, and we saw him pick up gloves, but this one doesn't have gloves, so does it mean that we can customize outfits? To which I respond, who actually wants that? But we'll get there.
Right.
So. Do you see any of the cars? I see the Alphas. I thought most of these were Ferraris until I saw the Alpha up here.
Right. I actually think, what is the 4th one? I think Jimmy said that the 3, 4, and 5 there were all Alphas. Is that what he said? This
is the only one that I was like, that's obviously Alpha.
Right.
I do think that he had said that those were, I believe that's
right.
Exactly
so that DTM though, that's the one that got me pumped on stream. I saw it just because right now I'm just all in DTM mode. I love that 90s boxy look, man. I love it. That's why I think one of my favorite cars is like I guess it's the R34s, Nissans, those 90s Nissans and stuff are just
they're so all over sick. The no hezzy servers too, like everywhere.
Yeah, they're just so sick. I just think it's the coolest looking body style. But, that's my jam.
Also pointed out here, the 6 wheels on this is one of those 6-wheeled cars.
I've never seen that in my life. It's the weirdest thing ever.
Until someone pointed it out, one of the other YouTubers had pointed it out, and I was like, oh wow, that's neat. And then of course we're getting over here into Ferrari Formula style stuff, and my love affair with the F2004 is well chronicled.
Is it there?
I mean, I don't know, but honestly, like this looks like one of the kind of Formula high tech deals, and we've been having a lot of fun with that in AMS too. So what I see here at least is we see some road cars, we see some race cars, we see some open wheelers, right?
Which is all I want. That's what I want.
Yeah, give us a nice wide net
variety. Yeah.
And it's driven by heart.
And again, these graphics are great.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Pause it. The amount of YouTubers that analyze the suspension of this game from that clip you just went past. Dude, every single YouTube reactor's like, bad British accent incoming. They're like, the suspension doesn't look quite right. Every single person's like, this looks like AC suspension. I sound like Gamer Muscle. I think you were going to say, yeah.
It does sound Gamer Muscle-y.
But every single person just like instantly was just like, I said Kunos can't do suspension, and this is an exact model of it right here. You know what I mean? It's nuts to me. I'm just like, guys, can we just enjoy the trailer?
Let me give you the not content creator, not sim racing focused, just person who works in marketing for a company. Like not me, but if I was a person who worked in marketing for a company, you know what I see there? Hey, look, the car goes up on 2 tires. The nerds will dig that. Like, and that's all. They're just like, yeah, great. And raw, crikey, mate. The suspension's all wrong. Yeah. I also was hearing a lot of talk around these clips around like, oh, it feels a little Gran Turismo 70.
This looks very Gran Turismo.
And it's funny because that's one of those things where I was like, I don't know where you're getting that from, but also I 100% agree. Like it does kind of have a feel to it that's in that way. And I'm not sure that that's a bad thing. I'm a big Gran Turismo 7 fan, of course, but there are some severe shortcomings in that game and that platform. There are also a lot of things that are really wonderful about it. So I wouldn't mind if Assetto Corsa Evo is going to steal something from them,
Right. And also we have this is a modern day game with modern day graphics. GT7 is a modern day game with modern day graphics, and you were showing a car that would very likely, that I guarantee is in GT7.
Yeah.
Like they're going to look similar. These things are going to look similar. You're seeing a car that is very Gran Turismo here, you know?
It's natural that they'd invite comparisons, and if anything, you'd want it to be drawing comparisons to like a PS5 game rather than ACC, which routinely collects comparisons in the opposite direction, or iRacing, which collects comparisons in the opposite direction. You know, It's like, this is not looking so good. So continuing.
Yeah.
Look at the detail quality in the mirrors.
Sorry, it does look good. It does look good. Those mirrors are moving around too. I like it. Also, I saw a lot of people talk about the animated pit crew, which I love. I love that. I pointed out during the live stream too, the guy walking around the track, the marshal.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. And I know somebody said, well, that's likely not actually going to be in the race. I'm like, that wouldn't be taxing. I hope it is.
Yeah. I mean, I would go so far as to disagree, because we've seen Assetto Corsa mod maps that do have like waving flags, or like maybe not. I don't know if the marshals have been animated necessarily, but I know that if you can animate a flag, you can animate a model to do a hand gesture
just to walk, you know, like I think that's anything to add to the immersion on track, especially when you're in a VR headset and stuff. Just the more things happening on screen that are immersive,
it just convinces you, right? And even if you're just cruising by it at speed and it's like a 4-frame kind of animate, like whatever it is, just it adds to it 100%, whether it's also, VR or not.
And on that same note, something I always hope for in games, I know so many sim racers will go, well, that's not what racing is about. It's not important. I feel like every game needs a decent damage model. I'm just saying, like bumpers, I just need pieces falling off the cars. Right. And so many racing games lack in that department. There's something about the immersion of like seeing two cars wreck in front of you and pieces coming off, just debris and pieces. That's all I want. Like even iRacing now has like debris, you know, like it's just like.
But a lot of that is because the licensing agreements that they make with the actual car manufacturers.
Oh, is that true?
Cars in the game. Yeah. So what it is let's say you're BMW, right? BMW might not want like a game with a bunch of realistic crash models that happen, so that then someone could take a BMW and crash it in a game and then like pass it off. You know, people passed off like Call of Duty footage as like real life footage and stuff like this. So I think that they worry about like, oh, people will think less of our products or whatever. I do think failing to understand that most people don't care, and that's not how they think. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a dated idea, but I do think that that's what prevents it most of the time.
I can see that. I think AMS2 and iRacing have it good. Bumpers fall off, wings fall off, you know, but like just seeing I think the first time that I just told one of my buddies here, you know, that lives near me, I was showing him my my YouTube channel and stuff, and I was showing him, it was actually in the banana bread video. I was showing him stupid. I was showing him a clip of some wrecks, community wrecks that I posted, and they were all in ACC. And like the cars, to me, I knew the wrecks were intense because I'm a sim racer. But like to him, he watched it, and the first thing he thought was, he was like, oh, that looks goofy. He's like, why did they just bounce around like that? And I was like, oh, you know what? From somebody not in racing, this does not look attractive. Like this doesn't look like appealing at all.
Well, if you show someone like say like a iRacing kind of thing versus like a AMS2 kind of thing, and then versus like a BeamNG kind of thing, right? There's the varying levels of how much are they going to deform and how much damage they take. And so some of it looks goofy, like you're saying, but to us, it's like, well, I know what that means happened and how bad it looks because that's all that the game will show you. Then you do stuff in BeamNG and you're like, oh, those people are dead, you know, and it like hits a completely different way.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I just hope that for me, I just hope there's some kind of damage model. I just want a bumper to fall off at least. Like
I bet there will be. I mean, they have it in Assetto Corsa. Assetto Corsa had a really wide variety of cars and stuff in it. Even Gran Turismo these days, it'll like at least show something bang up. Like you don't see pieces come off of it, but that might have to do with like engine limitations as well. I think that going to like an Assetto Corsa Evo, how do you have Evo anything that doesn't have pieces falling off the car is probably a fair question, right? Like it will feel very dated if it doesn't.
Right.
So carrying on, there's that animated guy.
There he is. He's looking sexy too.
So I will also say that for as often like impressive as it is when people can look at something and be like, oh, where are we right now? There were some shots where I was like, oh, well, so that's Brands Hatch. Like that Nürburgring is, or, you know, Nordschleife, I feel is kind
I'm starting to pick up on them too.
But the brands where it's like, sometimes you'll see like one angle of one turn. You'll be like, that's the, or like you'll look at the pit exit for somewhere and be like, this is where I am. And, that's one of those things that is shocking to me, like over the years. It's only like 2 years that I've been into the sim racing stuff, but where I went from not knowing anything about anything to looking at, oh, if you're parked in that garage, then that's they're actually at Brands Hatch right now, you know, like, oh, okay. Okay, all right. So I wanted to talk about that. That looks like in Pure when you cycle through like the day to night stuff, right? If you're dragging those sliders and you can make the skies change and whatnot. Do you think that should we read into that they have basically Pure type stuff baked in?
So I said in my video, I made a video right after this about like what I would like from this, and that's a good replay tool because that's so important for what I do and the fun that I have in racing games is good camera tools and replay tools. And I said in the video that this trailer doesn't look beyond what a player could do in their other games with their current tools. So, however, the only thing that I had a gray area on was the day and night cycle there. I'm like, that could have very easily been set up in developer side. But at the same time, I'm like, you can also, some games, you can set the acceleration of day night before you start the race. So that could even be the case, even though that would be crazy extreme.
Yeah.
But I was kind of wondering that. I was like, I wonder if that's an in-game function or if they set that up for this trailer.
I would bet that they're trying to show that you have a time acceleration type feature and that the day to night cycle is a thing that you can make happen. I just hope that it is baked in a way where it is like in the replay that you could just say, hey, I'm changing this on the fly right now.
Right, because that's part of photo mode in AC and in Content Manager, actually, not in AC.
Well,
in Content Manager.
Modded AC.
I always forget that AC is not actually a lot compared to what Content Manager brings.
So this will be one of my, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but one of my takes here is as we've heard about mods and like the modding scene and whether there's going to be mod support and stuff, and they've talked about how they're working with modders and so forth and so on. I'm going to say there's a good chance that they've been working with modders that are doing a lot of the quality of life features and stuff as much as or more than, car modders, track makers, that kind of thing. They may not have much interest in that because that's content that they could make and monetize for themselves. And they've proven that.
Which I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. They've proven it with the set of course, competizione. But, since it's this, you don't know if maybe they're going to try and save that and sell it, or are these going to be that we've talked to the people that make Pure and we understand like, oh, how do we get this in our replay tools? How do we, incorporate this, baked into the things to make these people happy, these content creators or whatever. So I'll be interested to see how much of it is actually the tools modders versus like the actual content modders.
Quality of life. Yeah. I agree that I think that honestly, if they did bring modders on board to do quality of life, I think that's almost just as good as having them make a mod for the game. You know what I mean? Just getting that quality there up front. So I really hope that stuff exists.
The only thing better than a mod is not needing the mod in the first place because it's baked into the game. So yeah. So I did see someone point out that this water is flowing uphill, which is
it appears to be uphill. I looked at it and I'm like, they have a camera set up wrong or something. I saw this in my very first watch. I didn't say anything on stream. And I was just like, I thought it looked weird, but I didn't want to get into it. But there's also a drain there on the corner, correct?
It does look like there's a drain there, but you would think it would be running down into it here.
And that's what made me wonder if like field of view or like something is throwing us off here that this maybe isn't actually downhill. But where is this?
Hang on a minute, because I thought it was.
Is this Imola? This looks like Imola.
Yeah, you're right. It might be Imola. Or Mola. It's probably, I don't know how to say that, but yeah, I believe that's what it is. Because I was like, Brands, and I was like, no, that's not it. So, and then this coloring here.
But where's that bridge on Imola? This looks like Imola. It looks like the final two turns. It looks like you're coming down. That would be downhill. I think this is the second from last turn.
And then left. Yes, that would make sense because it's the left, then the front straight, right?
Right. Huh. I wonder if that corner's cambered.
Anyway, I'm going to say this is probably just a texture that is animated in a different direction. That's meant to be like, here is standing water that is this level of depth that they have flowing in the wrong direction. But so, I mean, what I would assume here and hope is that we're seeing water pool in a corner, meaning it's going to be deeper here. You'll have like more of a distinct wet, dry line kind of thing.
I hope it's more, I hope this is just, my hope is that it's all more dynamic than ACC.
Right.
ACC is just like, hey, it's now rained and we have these designated spots on the track that you can't actually see that you'll hydroplane in. You don't know where, you don't like physically can't see why you hydroplane there, but we just have these spots that you hydroplane in if you touch. I hope it's a little more dynamic. I think obviously the iRacing rain model is actually very good. It's very good. And like the fact that it can rain on one side of the track and not the other, and then it pools in certain spots, you can see those pools so you know where you'll hydroplane and things like that. And I just hope it's a little bit in depth like that.
Yeah. I always thought that was insane, by the way, when people would complain about like, why can't we have weather that's only on part of the track or this or that? And I just thought like, well, why are you being so petty about it? And then I got into watching racing more and realized that like, that's a thing that happens in real life all the time.
Nordschleife is huge, dude. Like it could dump on one side and just be sunny on the other. Like,
well, and then realizing what it's like when you're like, I'm driving really carefully because it's wet. And then you're like, oh, it's kind of dried out. So I'm like being less careful. And then you're like, oh, it actually is wet again. And whoops, I'm dead.
Yeah, it's a very immersive thing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay, again, so looking here as he's looking around the cockpit, this did not strike me as VR. It struck me as mouse look in BeamNG.
Same, yeah.
But still cool, kind of nice.
Still cool, I love it, yeah.
Yeah.
Weather effects look, pause it real quick. Weather effects to me look like they're straight out of Pure, dude. Like they really do. I mean, just changed a little bit, but man, I mean, like Peter Bose and all this, they just nailed it with that stuff. It's insane.
Which, to be clear, we're praising Pure more than we're like crapping on AC Evo.
Exactly.
Here, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's just like, wow, like look what these dudes have done to an old game. Like it's insane. To have it even look close to this is crazy.
Super impressive.
Right. Can we go back? I have a question about that. The inside of that Ferrari. It was a side by side. That. What am I looking at on the left? I've never seen that.
So that looks like it would be the gear selector in the middle, but it looks like it's 3 distinctive bars.
3 sections, and you can kind of just
looks like
levers. You just pull
backwards to be reverse. One's automatic manual, and then the other one, I don't know. L is low.
First of all, the shot. If this is in-game footage, the detail here is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's photoreal. I mean,
freaking believable.
Absolutely.
But I saw that in the video, and I was like, that thing is fascinating. Look, are those the window controls?
Yeah, that looks like it would be.
Very strange. My Pontiac Vibe has them on the doors. I wonder why.
I mean, I think most cars have them on the doors. I'm not sure center console where I'd want that stuff.
Right. I feel like that's a fair comparison.
Is that on the door? That's the center console, right?
No, it is. It's the center console.
There's a seat right there.
Yeah,
So,
center console. Okay. Interesting.
Okay. So here's going to be the one that I'm going to want to pick apart. Not the 3-wheeled car, but
pretty. Oh my God, it's so pretty.
It looks so good, and we're driving on the road. Now we've got oncoming traffic.
I'm watching my cinematic in the background, and everything looks real similar.
So looking at the traffic thing, I was freaking out when we were watching the reveal because I was like, oh, that's opposite direction traffic, which implies a lot of things, right?
Right.
So we have on an Assetto Corsa server done free roam maps before where we've set up AI traffic, and there are a lot of mods involved, and it's annoying. Frankly, it's just kind of annoying to have to do.
It's buggy. It's not great.
So this looks like it's going to be baked into the game, which looks great. Then we go a little bit further and we find all of the YouTubers that actually go to the racetrack, say, look, this is this specific place on this road around the Nordschleife, pulled it up on maps. Someone went there and was like, I'm live at the corner where all the magic happened. So basically, clearly this is a real place. And so all of the speculation goes from, will there be AI traffic in Evo, to is Evo an open world game? So
taking the leap.
Yeah. So I'm going to, if you don't mind, let me speak to the open world stuff in a minute, but give me your take on what does it mean?
I think you have a track here that has 2 lanes. I think that's what it means. I don't think there's a bunch of dirt roads connecting. I don't think there's I don't know. To me, this doesn't scream open world, but because to me, when I think open world, I think of in a sense, what we got from BeamNG. There's a town in the middle with a mountain on the side that has trails and roads around it. I don't think that's what we're getting. It'd be cool.
So I'm going to say that free roam is what I would consider like a BeamNG, and that's even what BeamNG characterizes those maps as, right? Is free roam. It's a big area, wide open. So you're roaming around, whatever. Open world to me is more like what's
Forza,
the
you drive off the road?
Well, the Ubisoft game you're talking about, yeah, Forza would be. I would consider open world though too. But something that's like a big enough map so that it's like, okay, if I wanted to get from one side of this map to the other side of this map, it's actually going to be a substantial time investment one way or the other. If there isn't like a fast travel button. What I do think that this looks like is open, like a free roam kind of thing, right? And with everybody having pointed out how many Nordschleife or Nürburgring type locations are in there that are not technically a part of that, I don't know what the campus, you know what I mean? I don't know what the proper word is.
Yeah. Property. That is not right.
What you could sell me on is, what if Evo has a free roam map that is the surrounding area of Nürburgring, Nordschleife, that also you can drive onto and do the Nordschleife without doing any kind of so the tourist track day kind of thing that you see in Assetto Corsa all the time, but with an open surrounding area as well. That is maybe meant to be like hey, if you're just getting together, or if you're going to wait for a race, maybe you're in this lobby, who knows? But I think that it could just be like a sort of default mess around area that also has the Nürburgring on there, and you could maybe just live your Evo life or whatever.
Yeah, that would be cool. I like that. Yeah.
Well, so, and then this theory gets played into with some of the other thoughts that other people have had about microtransactions, which we could talk about in a second. But I will say that I hope that there is like road type stuff like this. I hope that there is AI traffic, because I think that there is a lot of fun to be had just blasting down these roads in these cars. But also because you would hope that maybe they're going to be like, also, here's some no hesi. Like, because if they can do this kind of thing, they could very easily be like, also, yeah. Give me some game modes.
It's so funny because what Assetto Corsa Evo is advertised as, which is like almost looks like this classy racing game with different things, and then stacking no hesi in it. It's got to be a weird mixture for like making the imagery of the game look cohesive, because no hesi is like it's like, let's get down on the freaking freeway and try to murder some families.
It's also like, clearly like Japanese expressway type stuff. You know what I mean? Right. It's a very distinct look. So I'm with you. As long as they make it look real and do that, but I think the no hesi part of it, like you're thinking about the.
I'm thinking about the culture of no hesi.
The internet no hesi culture that existed before we ever got there was basically like, oh, like these are people that like love this on, like they don't even care about racing at all,
right?
And then this is, you know, it's like for me no hesi. Yeah, no hesi for me is like a blow off Steam simulator. I can't drive like this in real life, but these guys that can do like 360 drifts in and out of the traffic and whatnot, it's just like, oof, you're on a different planet to me completely. Yeah. And I would love to see though that stuff just baked into the game, right? Like just a mode.
I would love it.
Mode. Traffic survival. Call it what you want, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, the sneakers. This was the thing that.
I've done a foot shot in an iRacing cinematic, by the way, and they did not look that good. Of course. So
these things that were pointed out: one, guys wearing jeans and sneakers; two, no gloves; three, not a racing suit. So all of the speculation I saw was clothing shop confirmed, you know, avatar confirmed, car life confirmed, like whatever. Just all of the let your brain run wild speculation that you.
I think it's just a character model, to be honest.
That's my take, but I also. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of avatar customization. I think microtransactions around it are probably not where they're at. I think they're probably, if they're going to monetize stuff, it'll be cars and tracks, because there's a proven winning formula.
Kunos better be selling me a Luffy from One Piece.
You're right. You are Vegeta driving the car.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I don't see them suddenly turning into like AC Evo, brought to you by EA Sports, brought to you by Formula One Life. I did see
something the other day about like a developer talking about like, it was, I forget who said, I think it was on Traction's channel. They were talking about an interview that was recently done where they were definitely leaning in the words of like, in the direction of what would it be, like life simulator kind of thing, like life.
Right. Yeah.
Like, so I don't know, maybe.
So, I mean, I wouldn't mind if there's some kind of an economy and you can buy better cars.
I would love economy. I would love some kind of economy.
House type situation, you know, and if the setting for that is like, right, here's your house that you bought around the Nordschleife and now you're going to like do all, you know, build your garage, all that kind of thing. I'd actually enjoy that kind of a framework. But if they start trying to sell me shoes and couches, I'm going to be upset.
I agree.
Well, with real world money, if it's all fake world money, I don't care about that at all. Sell me.
Yeah,
like,
but it won't
care.
be. Yeah, it won't be. That's not the way the world is.
No. It'll be Australian dollar redos or space bucks or something like that.
That's right.
A lot of Volkswagens.
Love it. What's our logo here? Evo Driving Simulation Evolved. Interesting.
16th
My head wants to read into those three things being slashed off. Driving Simulation Evolved. It's just like,
I'd want to see
know a lot went into the branding, you know. Like,
what's the styling on the first, like, you know, the logos or whatever? We could pull that up and see like what the difference is, like, because the slashes may be consistency between versions, or it may be significant. Right. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right,
but
so
yeah, Evo looks good.
Close out questions here. What is your most hoped for feature? You don't have to think it's going to be in there. The thing you want the most, though.
Like I said, the thing I want the most, because I know the game's beautiful, it's going to have a good selection of cars right off the bat. Even if it's got like 15 to 20 cars, I think that's a good selection, a good variety of cars. But to me, like I said, I want replay in photo mode because that's so important for what I do on my channel. But at the same time, I definitely want a good. AMS2 does a decent job of it, but I want to be able to open a lobby on their server, a dedicated server from them, and invite my friends in from Steam, and they just jump on the track and race. Now it needs to be a little bit better than AMS2's, but that's what I want. I don't want to have to mess with private servers. And if we can't get a private server set up, great. But I want the ability to just jump on and not worry about hosting a server on our own computers and things like that. Because AMS2, that's what makes it so freaking fun.
Yeah, I feel like that's what made AMS2 get traction with the community races, is that we were able to just sort of ad hoc throw stuff together and folks were able to join, right? Like if Robinson's like, hey, I'm playing some AMS2, then all of a sudden, like the rest of us can just jump into him and it's not any problem. You don't have to be like, what's the name of your server? You just right click, join, there you go. So likewise, my most hoped for feature is multiplayer as well, but not the same angle that you came at it from. For me, what I want is a really good turnkey matchmaking, like just I'm going to hit it, and whether it's skill based or whether there is a ranking or whatever. I hope that they have like a weekly race rotation the way that Gran Turismo does. I hope that there's some level of skill based matchmaking for it. That you can opt in or out of, right? Maybe there's like Gran Turismo. Here's a daily race A that isn't going to affect your rating, and then B and C that do. But what I want is like that. I don't want to have to always use a server browser. I would love to just be able to be like, there's going to be a race every 30 minutes and it's ranked, so people are not going to act like a complete schmo.
Right.
You know, and I don't think that what we're asking for is like the moon. These are like relatively modern, like customary at this point, multiplayer features. That, you know, if you can't have that in quality of life, even in an early access release, then it's going to make me sad. I'll be the right with the rest of us, but I'll be sad about it. Right.
And I think you're, now that you say that, that's definitely on the top of my list as well, because, and I don't want it to be like ACC. ACC is just a server browser. I don't like, you're right. I want there to be like a setup here. Hey, here's multiplayer for the game. You know, we're getting into multiplayer territory, and in multiplayer, there's quick match, there's ranked and stuff like that. I think that'd be fantastic. I mean, how could you get much better than that? And if it's day one, I think it pulls the interest. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm not asking for the moon on day one either. So like if the multiplayer stuff is like, here are our plans, but here it is right now. So like maybe the matchmaking thing's not there, but maybe it is like you can still just join your friends like in a pretty turnkey way. Cool. Like build the rest of it. That's okay. As long as you're thinking about the future and you've got a plan. I just hope it's not going to turn into a thing where in January we get like 10 cars, 4 tracks, and like a promise that in 6 months that there's going to be like this much more content. I hope we have a little bit more fully throated offering than that.
Right. And I think that's I'm pretty hard to disappoint with this. I think like whatever they put out, I'm going to be pretty difficult to be like, it's going to be pretty difficult to get me on the stance where I'm like, well, screw this, dude. You know, like I'll probably try to find the positive light in it and like what I've received. But at the same time, I think that scenario you just said, like 6 months from now, we will deliver these things. That would be the worst case scenario for me. Would just like, okay, well, now you've done the thing that every racing game does. Now you've given us a decent game with nothing to do. Like with no reason to keep people coming back. You know what I mean? Is the thing. Right. Well, and that's my, you know, ultimately one of my concerns is that I think that sim racers are pretty easily disappointed, but they're also pretty easily sold products. So like what'll happen is even if this game came out and was terrible, all of us will buy it and then we'll complain about it, you know? Yeah. So like they'll sell it either way. And I've got to imagine that their market research probably indicates that. So I'm just hoping that they're not doing it in the way that is like, we know what we can get away with because we have the data to back it up. And is instead like, we bumped this back to January 25 because what we had planned to release in September isn't quite there yet. And the release plan is still the same, but we had to take 3 extra months to do it. I have more sympathy for that. You know what I mean? Right. But if it's instead like, well, we didn't even know what we were planning to release in the fall. And so now we're like, geez, we got to get something out by January because like numbers or whatever. I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic because there's plenty of space here on the PC for like a good game and for something for all of us to love, even if it's a slow rolling start. I think that there's like real potential. But if they come out with something half baked, the way that we've seen, honestly, I think that we've seen Wrenchport come out this year that way. I think we've seen LMU come out the same way. Right. And I'm just hoping that AC Evo is going to actually raise the bar, you know, and become a new standard for it rather than being something that sim racers have to make more apologies for and wait for a couple of versions before it becomes worth the money that they paid for it. Right. I totally agree. Well, Casey, I know I've taken up quite a bit of your time today, so let me close out and ask you, you know, what's next for the channel, you think, beyond what we talked about this morning? You know, anything you want to plug, anything you got in the works? my channel is a weird factory of creation. With my for those of you who don't know, I said it earlier, but I run a wedding videography business. So that means certain times of the year I'm very busy and certain times I'm not. Right now we're in the busy months and stuff like that. But I'm looking very much forward to late November all the way to May. I have no weddings at all during that time. I basically work half the year and half the year I don't. So I'm very excited to dive into what YouTube could be for those next, that big time period. But as far as what's coming, I never know. I just don't. This whole thing is just me like sitting at my desk and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And then I do it. And that's the whole thing. And every now and then I'll get like inspired and I'll plan something. But most of the time, everything I do is done in a day. Like I film and I edit and it's done in a day just because I have a hard time working on something for a long time. And I think that's something I want to focus on next year is maybe more story narrative oriented content that maybe I spend a little bit more time on and like try to make something really engaging and interesting. But until then, the shorts will just keep being skits and funny things that I think of until we're in the prime time for sim racing. So
one of the cool things about your content to me anyway is that as you've gone through your eras, if we're going to call them that, is that it feels like you've nosed around a lot of ideas that you could explore further and really like develop in an even bigger way, right? Just a lot of really promising stuff that was good the way that it is, but that probably, if you were like, oh, I'm going to take a second or third pass at this, or I want to try and do this kind of thing at a different angle. I'm just, wildly optimistic at the results that you can get. And I'm super excited to see what you come up with next.
Well, thanks. I think that there has been some good ones over this last year. I think the photo series is something I can always go back to, especially when Evo comes out. I'll definitely be hitting that up on the new cars, and stuff. And like I said, I've gained subscribers from all these little different things over the last year. And I would like to think that the people who signed up for photo mode stuff, who subscribed for that, I still trickle into their feed and they're like, well, I didn't come here for this, but this is pretty good. That's what I always try to strive for, is that even though I'm not hitting every audience that, all these little niches that I've touched over this last year, like I'm hoping that those people can still find the appreciation of the content that's coming out outside of that little tiny niche they subscribed for. So,
if the state of your community is any indication, I think that they probably can. So it's really a credit to your work, man.
Right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, so to everybody that's out there watching and listening to probably the many 6 or 7 of my subscribers, as I had mentioned, you really joined I know that you're just taking advantage of my audience, but I'm going to allow it. I just want to say to those people, we did mention we were going to talk about BeamNG, and with my deepest apologies, we're not going to do that thing I said, because we went on for a lot longer on AC Evo than I thought we would. But I guess I would summarize my thoughts as saying BeamNG is totally worth playing and also incredibly frustrating.
Right. It's a game that you crash a lot and the game crashes a lot. It's fantastic. It's perfect.
Perhaps you would like to hear that chat as well. Perhaps let me know in the comments below. If you want to give the subscribe button a gentle caress, you do not have to smash it. We're all friends here. We don't have to be mean. You could just a little loving. Yeah. Just treat it with respect, the way that we would treat anybody else with respect. But otherwise, Casey, thank you so much for joining. Great to see you, and look forward to racing with you in the future. To everybody else, have a great day, have a great weekend, have a great life.
Adios, peeps.
Bye.